Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, HOA sued me and tried to repossess my farm property. We have lived here 30 years before the HOA. I am the type of guy that does not mind pushing buttons. I've always found it entertaining watching people's reactions, sometimes wondering how far I can take it. I grew up as one of 5 boys and all we did was torture each other with constant pranks and BS. Let me just say that my mother was beyond sick of us by the time we were teenagers. Anyway, the house that I lived in at the time of this story backed up to an HOA community. Essentially, when I stood on my back porch and drank my morning cup of coffee, I could see the entire west side of the neighborhood. This house had been built over 30 years before the neighborhood and their HOA were even thought of. My parents' farm. Yet, somehow, when they first were being built and established, we started receiving letters in the mail stating that we were in violation of several policies. How the hell they thought they had jurisdiction over me and my property, I'm not so sure. Just a bunch of idiots if you ask me. I ignored everything they sent but always opened up the letters to see what new and hilarious things they were saying now. They like to complain about my trash cans and my dogs. I do what I want in my house and on my property, and if I want to leave my trash can at the end of my driveway for the rest of my life, it is my prerogative and they cannot do anything about it. The same goes for my pups. If I want to let them run around off leash, then I can. The constant letters eventually grew to be really annoying and were starting to piss me off. I eventually received a statement that they were going to sue me and take me to court for the fines that I had not paid for the violations that I had made. At this point, I did not have the ability to ignore this letter, but instead I now had to deal with legal BS. Thankfully, I had a buddy that was an attorney who was willing to give me some advice and help. From everything that I told him, he said that there was not much legal leg for them to stand on. No surprise, I already knew that. All I needed was my deed to the property and that should be enough. Turns out, he was right, good friend that he was. I honestly cannot even believe that these people wasted their own time and mine trying to take me to court. I was even more blown away by the arrogance that I saw from the HOA board and their attorney. They literally acted like they owned my house. Like they thought they had any jurisdiction over a home that is not even in their neighborhood, nor built or even established by them. My attorney friend told me that this happens and that many crappy associations will try to pull stunts like this one on pre-existing homes that are near HOA new neighborhoods. Essentially, it's a power move and there are enough cases that are awarded to the HOA that they feel like it is worth the time and money to try and win. Thankfully, the judge that I had was an intelligent person who can see with his own 2 eyes that this HOA is full of a bunch of a-holes who are looking to do nothing but bug the crap out of me for no reason. Not only did the judge refuse to award them any kind of money or jurisdiction over my home and property, but he flipped the script on them and hit them with a hilarious harassment fine. I was not even asking for much, but I figured since I had to drag my butt all the way into court that I would at least ask for a couple grand. However, the judge again did even better and ordered them to give me not only the 3K that I had asked for, but also my lawyer fees and an additional harassment amount that was close to $12,000. I skipped my happy ass out of the courtroom and waited outside of the city-county building until the HOA members and their attorney arrived. I laughed at them and gave them the double bird as I walked back to my car. The even better thing was that their attorney landed himself an ironic parking ticket for letting his meter run out on his fancy Rolls-Royce. I then went home and thought that everything was over, but I had a dream that night that I continued to do stuff to antagonize the HOA still. I cannot help but realize that while this may make me a little petty, I just don't care. I am resorting back to my old teenage self, using my talent of pranks and eternal brother torture to further destroy these people. Or at least I will bug the hell out of them like they did to me. So, from that day forward, I made it my mission to do a bunch of stuff they hate. I continued to leave my trash can in the weirdest and funniest places. I even spent an hour hauling the damn thing onto my roof. One of my favorites was the elaborate Christmas scene I put in my front yard. It was a beautiful, elaborate scene of multiple trash cans. And yes, I went to the store and purchased a dozen trash cans of various sizes. 8 of them were the reindeer, and then I had a really big one that was meant to be the sleigh. It was so popular with people that lived near us that they even came and took pictures of it. And yeah, I didn't stop there. I had always thought about having some chickens. Who doesn't love eggs? Anyway, I bought a big old chicken coop and 6 chickens. The HOA was a big fan of that one. I came outside one morning and noticed a car with a very grumpy looking woman staring at my trash can setup and the chickens that were meandering around the yard. I continued to put together weird and funny scenes with the trash cans even after Christmas was over. I will admit that I don't like when my grass is too tall or when the brush at the back of my property gets out of hand. However, it seemed like a good idea to allow the grass, weeds and tall brush behind my yard to build a fun privacy fence, as you will. I did not care that much about how it looked since you cannot see the back from the road. Only the HOA can see the ugly wall of grass and weeds now. It was about 8 months of this before I finally had that same woman who was glaring at the trash cans come to my door. She stood there with arms crossed over her chest and her high heels tapping on the front step. You think she was mad? She tried to speak with a pleasant tone of voice but was clearly not good at it. She was obviously not much of a faker or an actor, at least she kept herself genuine. Anyway, she was staring at me with her resting bitch face and introduced herself curtly. She did not allow me to say anything really before she started in on me, accusing me of being immature and vindictive. I agreed with her, not wanting to really argue with her, but instead let her get more angry. She asked me why I continued to do these egregious acts, and I laughed, simply stating that I did it just to get back at them. She blinked a few times and asked why again, to which I just said, "Because I can," and slowly closed the door in her face. She shouted inaudibly and kicked my door before stomping over to her car and peeling out back towards her neighborhood. This back and forth battle of me doing stuff to annoy the HOA and the lady visiting my house to yell at me for being immature continued for about 2 years, but I eventually found a job in another state. Her dream came true when I finally moved, probably trying to force the new owner into abiding by their HOA rules and paying their BS fines. However, it is not my problem now. And ripe stars, if you still appreciate the stories about crazy HOAs, then I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled "No Beer for You." A buddy of mine, BM, works at the beer store, the only stores in Ontario, Canada, where you can buy beer. Very popular stores, as you can imagine, with lots of regular customers. The beer store is also where you can return beer, liquor and wine bottles. It is a stinky, sticky part of the job for BM at the beer store, and the worst of it is when somebody brings in a load of empties at closing time. That is exactly what a whole customer, AC, did. He is a regular, literally 2 minutes to closing time after a busy Saturday on a long weekend. AC shows up with a pickup truck loaded with empties. This looks to be at least 20 minutes of dealing with the dude's empties, and beer store employees are only paid to a certain time. If your close-up routine runs late, that is your problem. So BM explains to AC that being that it is closing time, he cannot do the empties. Why not bring them in on Monday? Technically, he has to take them, but realistically, it would end up being on his own time. AC is having none of it and starts going off about how he is a customer and he is entitled to return these empties now. Of course he is right, and with closing time now come and gone, MB dutifully lets the guy load in the empties, locks the door and starts ringing them through. 20 minutes later, it is all done and BM hands AC his cash for the deposits. That is when AC places his beer order, "And I will have 24 Carlings." Well, it is now well past closing time. BM looks AC straight in the eye and says, "I'm sorry, we are closed." Did not sell an alcoholic his beer on a Saturday night in a one-horse town. Later, the trouble hit the fan and he was told he had to treat all customers like kings, yada yada yada, but he had that silky smooth satisfaction of denying AC what he wanted, what he needed most that night, which was an ice-cold beer. The next one is titled, I certainly can return everything. I work for USPS, I'm a window clerk at a small office and pretty much run the office. Everyone else works 6 minutes away at a larger office. This autumn I had a lady moving into our area from out area. I took my time and explained how to do the change of address a couple times and glanced at it when she turned it in. Nothing jumped out at me as being wrong, so I turned it in. A couple weeks later, a ton of mail starts coming for this lady and husband to my PO boxes. It is coming to a number I know I did not rent out because I won't rent it out due to continuing mail problems with the last tenant. So I look up her change of address and see there was a problem with it. She forgot to put the street name. Just the house number and apartment number, so whoever input it into the system assumed it was a PO box. So since I was partly at fault and this lady seemed nice, I collected all her mail and went to my super. We went through the addresses for our zip and narrowed it down to 2 possible apartments and called the property management to figure out which one. I put in a fix for the change of address, but by now a few of the companies have already changed her address into her new PO box address. I circled this on a piece of mail and wrote on a post-it about the error and if she can please call these 2 businesses and fix it to the correct address, and started handing off the mail to her carrier. No problems. Enter 2 weeks later, she comes storming in the PO raising holy hell that she does not have a PO box and is not paying for one and is not going to call these places to fix it because she did not mess up. I tried to tell her that it is just 2 places, her bank and something else, and she cuts me off. I don't have a bank, I have a credit union. Just being really combative. Okay, same difference. No, a credit union. Okay, whatever, financial institution, but they have already updated their records to your new address, which is incorrect. I don't have the power to inform them of your correct address, you have to do it. If they are too stupid to send it to a PO box then I don't need it. Okay, so let me get this straight. Anything I get for you to the PO box is to be returned to sender? No, that's not what I said. I don't need anything coming to a PO box, so send it back. Okay, have a good day. So anyway, it's a lot more than 2 companies trying to send her mail now, and a few holiday things have come through. She must have been looking for a check because she raised hell with my super. He called me and I walked him through everything that happened, and to the point that she told me to return everything to sender that was addressed incorrectly, which I've been doing gladly. And the next one is titled, Landlord keeps making excuses for coming into my flat when I am out. I am at my wit's end and I am having mental health issues because of this. My landlord keeps coming into my flat almost every day. I come home and he is in there or has been in there and left a note. I cannot stand this anymore. He always has some excuse and keeps blaming me because it is a pandemic and I should not be out of the house anyway, and one time I left a tap on a trickle and the sink clogged and overflowed, but that was a year ago. He comes in and uses my toilet and puts sticky notes on any mess I left. I got into bed and there was one on my pillow saying I need to make my bed more. I cannot take this, but I cannot change the locks. I called the police once months ago, but they said he needed access for an emergency because there was water leaking, but that was only once and it was a year ago. Can I stop paying rent or something until he stops? Surely it cannot be right. He waits until I am out and then comes in and eats my food and uses my toilet and moves things about. Forgot to add, I am in England. And a user in the comments said, you are allowed to live in the property undisturbed. Changed the locks, it is his house but your home. If he complains about you changing the locks, go to the citizens' advice and see what they say. Without question, he cannot just walk in and around your house. It is weird, especially leaving notes on your pillow, etc. And another person said, this is harassment, which is a police matter. Keep a detailed log of every time he enters and take photos of anything he has done. Of the post-it notes, etc. Let the police know on each occasion. And guys, this person should probably get the prize for being one of the creepiest landlords we have ever heard about. Have you ever had any trouble with your landlord? Let us know in the comments. Update to the insane landlord story. I have both good and bad news about this. Last Monday morning I set up cameras watching my bedroom and my living room and my kitchen. He came in every day. Every single day he came into my flat as if it was his own flat and sat down to watch TV and ate lunch and even did some washing up. He never did anything weird, he just came in and did that and then used my loo. He only went in the bedroom once and left a note about me leaving a mess of dirty clothes on Friday because I do all of my washing over the weekend so it builds up. After I came home on Friday, I wrote a letter telling him that I need 24 hours notice before he comes in and that I would be changing the locks so not to try again without letting me know, and if he needed to come in for maintenance, I would let him in. I dropped that in his post box and changed the locks out. Well, yesterday morning his son came around. I guess he gave him a call ranting. I didn't know any of this, but it looks like this is the last straw and his son is going to be taking over as my landlord soon as his father has dementia and it has been getting worse. They did not know he had been going into my flat, but now they do, and it looks like something is going to happen. He asked me to send him over copies of the notes and videos, and they are going to look into getting a carer and moving responsibility for the flat to his son. My name is the same as his son, and his son lived in this flat for a few years when he was in uni, so he was thinking that maybe his father overlapped us in his mind and was trying to be a good father because that is what he did when his son lived here. He would come over and tidy and leave notes. I'm sorry, this update is not full of excitement or me calling the police or taking him to court for the deposit. He is an old man with a mind that is going downhill, so I feel for him and his family now. I lost my nan to dementia, so I know it is awful. His son said he would be looking into the deposit because it sounds like his father has made a big mess of all the financial stuff and in keeping up with things recently. Finding out about him going in my flat gave them a shock and told them he was not in the right mind to be handling things anymore. I am hoping they can take care of him. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support and I hope to see you again tomorrow.